Hello, I'm Alex Davies, founder of Wealth Club. Today I'm with Sunil Shah of o2h Ventures to talk about the o2h Therapeutics EIS and SEIS funds. So tell me about your background.
So I'm a biochemist by training, and then I did 4 years in the life sciences sector at PA Consulting Group, and post that I did an MBA at the Judge Institute in Cambridge. After that I teamed up with my brother Prashant and we set up our first company, which was called surprisethewoman.com, which is an online gift site for men to buy gifts for their women. So although it wasn't in the sector where our fund is based, we actually learned a lot about business. I mean, 1 minute we were the sexiest entrepreneurs in town, everybody wanted to talk, the next minute no one would even return our phone calls. And so we had to sort of learn about real business, making sure we make a profit and all the good stuff that you probably don't learn in consulting world. So we sort of learned a lot of our business skills from the first startup. Our second startup was a research services company. We grew that from 2 people organically to 175 people in total, about 350 people across the globe. And we provide research services into biotech and pharmaceutical companies across the globe. And it's through that business that we actually created our network that we rely on very much today in terms of knowing the pockets of good science where it exists in the UK, knowing the academics, the medicinal chemists behind the science itself. So a lot of our network comes from that business. That is a business we sold successfully. So we sold that to a larger group in India. So we have experience of not only starting companies, setting them up, but also exiting a business as well.
And so tell me about the fund. What is it? What's it aimed to do?
So o2h Ventures has launched the Therapeutics Fund and AI. So it's the first fund, EIS fund, that's focused on drug discovery therapeutics. It's a really interesting space, really quite ignored historically. And the reason why is that maybe 10 years ago, to invest in this space, people would be thinking, okay, I need to invest for many years and there'll be a series A, B, C, D, and I'll get washed out, which is why it's been ignored by the early stage investors for a long time. But the shift in the ecosystem is that pharmaceutical companies have been closing down their research organizations for the last decade, really, and now they are really hungry for innovation. So they are buying much earlier than they ever used to. So if you have some great science, which we have plentiful of in the UK, and we could incubate it and take it to a certain stage, pharmaceutical companies are now more interested in buying some of those early stage innovations. So our fund focuses on searching and finding this great science that we have in the UK, doing proper due diligence on the idea, forming and developing and investing in those companies with a view that if the science works, a big pharma might buy them. So we are thinking about the exit before we even make the investment. And
do you want to give me some examples of some recent investments?
One of the companies we've invested to is called Exonate. It's a spin out from Nottingham University. It's developing a drug for macular degenerative disease, wet AMD. The underlying technology is very interesting because we may be able to treat wet AMD with a drop, opposed to what's existing on the market is an injection into the eye, which is $1 billion drug. So we've invested into that company and we are working with that company to develop and grow that company. Another company we've invested into is called Metreon, which has a service platform for screening drugs, ion channel screening. They also have a very interesting asset potentially for psoriasis. So we've invested into that company that's based in Cambridge. We've invested into a public listed company called Deep Matter, which is using artificial intelligence to generate more information around a chemistry reaction and therefore can help predict if a reaction will occur or not. So we have a broad range of assets that we've invested into already.
And where do you get these deals from?
So over many years of working in the sector, we have what we call our hot network, which is a mixture of, we go to a lot of the biotech investor forums. We have live working relationships with a lot of pharmaceutical companies from previous businesses that we've held. And so we actually are very well known in the sector, having been working in this area for the last 18, 20 years. We curate a lot with other angel clubs. I'm on the board of Cambridge Angels and we see a lot of deal flow through there. So we are very well networked in this space, and we are actually inundated with deal flow right now.
And your experience, obviously you've set up successful businesses and you're in this area, does that make you a good fund manager as well?
That is a great question. I believe at an early stage, you need to be, being an entrepreneur really helps. It's not like these are mature assets where you can just put money in and the assets will pop out the other end. You need to be very, very involved with these early stage companies. Normally they're academics, and they, although they have a great platform of science, there's other things that they need. And so we are, as entrepreneurs, we are very involved in our startups. We sit on the boards of many of the companies. We get involved with helping them doing business development deals, linking them up into industry and other things. So actually, I think with early stage in biotech, it really helps to be an entrepreneur rather than managing by spreadsheet.
How are investors going to get their money back? What's the sort of typical exit going to look like for you?
Well, as one of the things I mentioned earlier in the interview was that pharmaceutical companies are now buying into the innovation much earlier than they ever used to. I mean, GSK closed down, Harlow, AstraZeneca have shifted to Cambridge, but they closed down the Alderley Park site, Merck, etc. So a lot of the pharma have been moving out of research, but that means they need to access innovation. So our exits, where we're looking for exits, will be to develop the asset and the idea with a view to sell to the large pharmaceutical companies. They are hungry to buy in earlier than they used to previously because they can buy in at a better price, and they will then help develop the asset to a view where they'll acquire it. So we feel our exits are all going to come from the big pharma space, and you only have to look at what's going on globally in this area, that pharmaceutical companies are paying proper money and buying much earlier than they ever used to. So that's part of our investment hypothesis.
To a lot of people this sounds very risky. How risky is it?
Investing in biotechnology is risky. However, there are a lot of interesting areas within the space which could be very high returns. For example, immuno-oncology, how artificial intelligence can affect drug discovery. So there's a lot of interesting areas within biotechnology. Also, it's also good to remember these are not businesses that are going to be, we're not just trying to invest into companies which will sell into the NHS or into local economy. These are technologies where we file intellectual property for Europe, US, Japan. So these are technologies that have global appeal. And in the UK, we have great science, I think very much underexplored in the drug discovery therapeutic space. And if we can invest in some of those and exploit those technologies globally, I think it would be a very interesting investment.
In terms of deals, is it hard to get deals? And what about valuations?
Great question, Alex. So at the moment in the UK, there's very little money chasing early stage drug discovery therapeutics. And if I compare that to, say, Boston, which has this huge ecosystem to support early stage, there's a massive difference. However, if I compare the science that I see in the US and I compare the science in the UK, I think we're equally as good, but the valuations in the UK are probably half, if not a quarter, of the same science and the valuations in the US. So I think there's this huge disparity between what we see in the US and what we see in the UK. So therefore, the valuations in the UK are extremely attractive, and with the pound where it is right now versus the dollar, we are seeing quite a lot of inflow of US investors coming into the UK to try to access our technologies. So I think the valuations are very keen right now. We have a window of opportunity where we can invest and maybe even bridge into the US with some of our technologies.
Okay, so I'm going to invest in the EIS this year. Why should I choose you?
So there's a number of reasons why you should invest into o2h Ventures. So number one is that the landscape for drug discovery therapeutics is highly exciting. When we file our intellectual property, it's not just for the local UK market, it's for a global appeal. We're the only EIS fund that's actually focused on drug discovery therapeutics and AI. And you need a lot of special expertise to be able to due diligence these types of investments, which we have within our portfolio. There are a number of groundbreaking technologies within our space, whether it's immuno-oncology and others, where genomics platforms, where we're investing into, which could provide some exponential returns. And look, the science that we've got, the science base we have in the UK is unbelievable. It's so exciting. The amount of innovation that we have here, if we can tap into some of that and explore that commercially and globally, I think will make a very interesting investment. And the EIS is actually been designed, I feel, for biotech companies. We do have loss relief. We do have this tax advantage when you invest into a company as well, and obviously you get the IHT and the capital gains tax advantages thereafter. So I feel that given where we are politically as well, I think it's an area that any government coming in will look to protect as well. So from an EIS perspective, I think we should feel fairly comfortable and well protected.
Sunil Shah, O2h Ventures, thank you very much.
Thank you.